Reciting the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, welcome to the March 21st, 2022 meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals. Just review the draft minutes of our previous meeting held February 28th, 2022. And I would make a motion to approve the draft minutes. Any other comments about? A second, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Okay, thank you. Approved without amendment. We'll review the agenda as posted on the town website. Number one tonight, Harbor Freight at 841 Hoosick Road, Saxton Sign Company. It's a public hearing, followed by CVE North America, Inc., Bel Air Lane Solar Project for further discussions. One new business item, 66 Wayrick Road, seeking an area variance.
Did they tell us 6?
I told them, so. Sorry.
Okay, no, real good. Yeah, great. So we'll open the public hearing on this application. I'll ask our attorney to read the notice of public hearing, noting, of course, that was published in the Eastwood Press, placed on the town signboard, posted on the town website, and mailed to property owners of adjacent property within 300 feet of the project.
Notice of public hearing. Notice is hereby given that a public hearing will be held by the Zoning Board of Appeals of the Town of Brunswick at 6 p.m. on Monday, March 21, 2022, at the Brunswick Town Hall, 336 Town Office Road, Brunswick, New York, 12180, concerning the application submitted by Saxton Sign Company for a sign variance for property located at 841 Hoosick Road, Harbor Freight Tools Building. Copies of the application are available at the Brunswick Town Hall and are available for public inspection during regular business hours. All interested persons will be heard at the public hearing.
Thank you very much. So I'll just ask the applicant to come up. I'll just ask you if there's been any changes to the application materials and if you could kindly present a brief overview of your project, please.
Sure. There has not been any changes. So there's going to be 2 sets of channel letters, one on the west side and other on the south side, the same exact size, same thing. They will be illuminated. And it's 50 inches by 22 feet, 10 inches wide. And it's a total of 95.49 square feet on both of those. And then there'll be a road sign, which is double faced. It's 35.5 inches by 96 inches. And that is 35 square feet. And it's monument style. The total height overall is 52 inches off the ground.
And that will not be illuminated, is that correct?
I believe it will be illuminated.
So all 3 signs?
Yep,
Okay.
all 3 signs will be illuminated.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Take a seat and we'll open the floor for receipt of public comment. If anybody would like to speak for or against this application, you're welcome to do so. Chuck, are there any written comments?
We've received no written or email comments on this application.
Thank you. Are there any questions from any of the zoning board members?
No questions.
So just to restate then, so the variance that's being sought is for the number of signs, not the square footage of signs. That falls into the allowable dimensions.
Right, they're not above 300 at all, and they have the ability to have up to 300 square feet.
So there are actually 2 pending. One was for the total number of signs, and the second one was for the sign on the side, technically on the side of the building,
Right.
even though
Yeah,
it's
that's
above
right.
the entrance door.
Right.
Given the orientation of the building on the lot.
Got it. Thank you. have a question. What are the hours of operation? All right. That's fine. Oh, that's fine. So pending that, I believe that the signs are illuminated during the hours of operation?
Yes, because it borders a residential area on Betts Road that will be turned off.
So perhaps that could, if these area variances were approved, that could possibly be a condition to the approval. So hearing no public comment, I make a motion to close the public hearing portion of this application. Would I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. The public hearing is closed. So the zoning board members are prepared to deliberate. Oh, sorry.
Just one question. Chuck, did you find any? This is an application that was required to be referred to the county because it's within
Okay.
500 feet and it's adjacent to a state highway. It was forwarded to the county planning department. The 30-day time for their response has not yet elapsed, and we're checking to see if we've gotten a response.
Okay.
I have not received an email back from Lyndon, no.
Okay. You can certainly commence your deliberation, but we're not able to legally act tonight
Mhm.
because we do need the county
Okay.
response.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and deliberate, and we'll begin by looking at our elements. Yeah, oh, that's right, that's right, non-residential, yeah, sorry. Right, so as the attorney kindly reminded me, this is a commercial property, so we're gonna look at a non-residential seeker review process, noting that there's a short environmental assessment form submitted in the application. And under the State Environmental Quality Review Act, the zoning board needs to review that information, which we have, and determine whether, in the board's opinion, there is potential for at least one significant adverse environmental impact from the proposed action. So having reviewed that, I would make a motion to determine that there is not a potential for at least one significant adverse environmental impact from the signs. Would a member second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Now we'll begin our discussion of and review of the variances. The 5 standards will be asked. Explain how no undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood nor detriment to nearby properties created by granting the area variances.
Well, it's a commercial area, and the other businesses have the signs, and it is typical that they would have the signs, so it doesn't create a detriment to any of the nearby properties. It's similar to the other properties.
I would agree, as the materials submitted included signs from the diner, which is in that neighborhood, and also the Tractor Supply. We're also asked to explain why the benefits sought by the applicant cannot be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than the 2 area variances.
Well, it's necessary building because that's actually the entrance, and the monument sign out in front, of course, is also part of the stores there.
Yeah, I agree. It's a unique orientation. The applicant's just kind of maximizing the parking lot space and the building space with that lot size. And then we're asked to describe whether requested area variances are substantial, noting that the zoning allows 2 and 3 are being sought. and then one of them's on the side.
I don't feel they're substantial. A lot of businesses have applied for a lot more signs than that.
Yep, thank you. We're also asked to explain how the proposed area variances will not have adverse effects on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district. And I think noting that we did that non-residential seeker review, that kind of answers that. And then lastly, we're asked to explain whether the difficulty is self-created, noting that the consideration is relevant but shall not necessarily preclude the granting of area variances.
Well, it is self-created because of the way that they located the building and they put the entrance on the side. So making it necessary for the variance to have the sign on the side of the building.
Yep, I would agree. So at this point is where we would usually act. We would balance the benefit between the applicant and then the neighborhood in general. So I guess we'll hold off for now, pending the receipt of that letter.
Right, because there could be comments from the county that the board should consider before any final action. And so while you deliberate on this, I think, whole, you do have under the law 62 days after the close of the public hearing to render your decision. It's appropriate to have on your April agenda then. That'll be timely. The county will either have responded or the 30 days to respond will have elapsed. And then you'll be legally able to act. And based on the deliberations, any conditions that the board may want to impose, that could be discussed at your April meeting as well.
Okay. To understand that, then our next meeting will be April 18th.
Okay, so I need to recommend that then?
It would be helpful, sure, because then you would see how this all concludes. And yes, please. April 18th at 6 o'clock. Do you have any other questions for us?
No.
Okay,
Everything's good except for time.
that's right. Waiting on that letter, yeah. All right, thank you. Thanks for coming out tonight. We'll see you next month. Okay, next up, we have Changing Visions of Energy, CVE North America, Inc., for property located off of Bel Air Lane.
At this point, I'd like to, not now?
No, next one.
Oh, I'm sorry.
This is only CV. No, we're good.
Okay.
We're glad you're here with us. So the applicant is seeking two area variances from the zoning board. One would be the 100-foot setback from the lot lines, as the project is proposing 0. And then for the utility poles, for that interconnection with National Grid. So just to kind of summarize a little bit, at our last meeting, we had a few questions, and we thought that bringing the project engineer to this meeting, our March meeting, could help answer some of the questions that came up at the last meeting. And,
I'm sorry, he's not, the engineer's not here, but he did respond to the question you asked in the engineer's letter. Mr. Bonesteel asked the question, so he provided a written response to your question in the
that
letter itself.
Okay.
So I have that. I know you all have that. I can read you the response in the letter regarding this, because Mr. Bonesteel asked the same question,
Okay, all right.
right? So
Yeah, so before we get that, just to kind of wrap up some loose ends from our last meeting in February, we asked to resend some of the materials that were sent out, I believe, in 2021.
correct.
But then we found out, looking through our archives, that most of us have had that material. So I think we're all up to date with the materials, with application materials. Is that
Well, I resent the link anyways. If we didn't have it,
Okay.
they've got a fresh copy.
okay? And then another thing that we need to discuss at tonight's meeting is the possible date for a joint public hearing with the planning board.
Perfect.
So, all right, so I'll put it back to you, and if you can update us on how you're doing, and go from
We
there.
have, good. We appeared at the last planning board meeting. They expressed our willingness to have a joint public hearing with the ZBA regarding the project. And again, so I know that's pending any action that the board takes, regarding a willingness to join them for a public hearing in April. Again, as far as we were concerned, the only issues were, again, the copies of the plan or the applications, and we received, we exchanged emails with Chuck. He said he had it, but we provided a link in case anybody else needed it. And there was the question regarding why 6 poles? And again, Wayne's question to the engineer was this, and I'll read it directly. In the plan showing the utility easement, is it necessary to install 6 poles in a single row, and what does GOAB stand for?
Mhm.
GOAB. So this is the response. National Grid prefers their 6 required pieces of equipment, and I'm going to name now 6 pieces of equipment, of which I'm not sure what they are, but I did see them on the poles, each on a separate pole. That is the customer meter, the utility meter, the customer recloser, the customer GOAB, utility recloser, and utility GOAB, and the parens, to be aerial, citing public safety and security reasons. This is reflected in their, quote, requirements for parallel generation connected to a national grid-owned EPS electric system bulletin number 756, end quote, manual, which this project must adhere to. Within this manual, figure 5, typical overhead single primary service configuration in New York for large DER installations, details the type of interconnection for DER projects and specifies that the connection must be overhead. GOAB stands for the gang operated air brake and shall be labeled accordingly as part of the next submission package. So that is the direct quote from him. So again, the equipment they have each one of those things that I just described on each one of the poles up high to keep them away from people's ability to get to them. So that's why you need 6 of them based on the amount of equipment that we need.
As you can imagine, there's a bit of arc flash when these are disconnected under load. So the gang operated air breakers do need to be in the air such that arc flash doesn't damage your eyes or damage you when the disconnection is done. There are ground mounted GOABs. We have seen those use in a couple of applications, Borrego being one of them. So, but it's more costly to do it that way. Yeah, I prefer looking at the poles in a big metal box too. That's just me.
So that was his response to the engineer to that exact question.
Thank you. So you used some other initials in that response, DER.
Distributed energy resource, I think.
Okay.
I was just getting ready to turn around and look. No, this is Carson Wine, he's the project manager.
Hi,
Hi, nice to meet you.
nice to meet you. I don't think I met the zoning board yet.
We're friendly.
Yeah. There you go.
That means a small scale energy facility, like our site,
Okay.
distributed energy resource.
And small scale is defined how?
In my eyes, 5 megawatts or less,
Mhm.
which is the cutoff for community solar projects.
And you can use the utilities distribution system to transmit the power, transmit the power
Yeah.
from that to the substation rather than building your own separate utility. For a large scale, you have to build your own distribution lines. And so that would change the dynamics of the project substantially. So the smaller scale, community scale is intended to be able to use the existing infrastructure where you can. That's why it limits it to 5 megawatts. Maximum.
Because if new infrastructure needed to be built, how much does that go?
Very expensive very quickly. The larger projects can connect into existing transmission lines. But those aren't distributed energy resources then. Those are major utility scale power plants.
And
And
there's-
we can connect into the 3-phase power lines, the distribution circuit with the utility as opposed to the transmission level circuit. And we sometimes have to upgrade the distribution circuit as well. And it does get expensive sometimes.
That's for the large scale.
Yeah. Well, no, for even these
For this
projects.
small- oh, mhm.
We have to do a little bit of upgrade work up Bel Air Lane, but it's manageable.
What upgrade work do you have to do?
The existing poles and the existing wire that runs up Bel Air Lane is a single phase wire. We have to upgrade it to 3-phase. Basically 3 wires instead of 1 at a higher voltage. So they have to add that on.
Do you know what the cost is for that?
Yep, we performed the study. I think our total bill to interconnect is about $650,000, which is not the worst. I know it sounds like a big number, but it's pretty good. We thought,
And that's just
It's
to
feasible.
those upgrades.
yeah.
Yeah, that's-
And then the bulk of that charge is coming from upgrading the single phase to the 3-phase.
Because how much would it be to create new infrastructure?
From scratch
Yeah.
and install the poles.
Sure.
Similar, but more expensive. You know, if you had to add in the poles all the way up Bel Air Lane, I could see it being over $1 million.
Going up Bel Air.
Yeah, all the way up from Hoosick
Yep.
on up.
And you mentioned cutoff for community systems. So large-scale projects are then not community systems.
Correct.
So that means that they have only one customer?
Yep, and it's the wholesale power markets. In that sense, you know, they're just selling it at,
To National Grid.
to NISO, which is sort of a state-level power authority above National Grid that operates the power markets on an hourly, daily basis. Yep, and that's a totally different market and different type of project. They have a different interconnection study process. They don't study with National Grid, they would study with NISO.
Mhm.
Our distributed energy resource projects are 5 megawatts or less. They can participate in community solar where we can distribute the credits to individual customers.
Mhm.
You can connect to the 3-phase lines. You don't have to connect to the transmission lines.
Yeah, thanks for the information.
They describe it as utility scale versus community, so, community scale, so.
So as Chuck mentioned earlier, some projects who have come in front of the board have only used 2 utility poles.
Yeah.
How are they doing it?
I don't know. We haven't been given that option.
Mhm.
And that answer is coming from our engineers who speak directly with National Grid.
Mhm.
Were they interconnecting with National Grid? It may be just different requirements for different utility companies. So I don't know if it's the same utility and they have different standards. Because we want to interconnect in with National Grid, we have to follow their regs.
I'm pretty sure it was National Grid.
Yeah, I don't believe we have any other utility in the town of Brunswick. We're not split like other townships are. With it may have been a timing thing, that these were one of the first 2, actually the first one, where that option for ground mounts no longer available.
But this is the Brago field off of Brick Church.
Right.
And I took the picture for you guys of me with the truck parked next to that, yeah.
And that's surrounded for safety reasons by those bollards, is that right?
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Yes, right. So that's there in place instead of more utility poles?
There would be more poles if that wasn't there.
Right, that wasn't there, right.
Yeah, just for a little context, these poles will be at the end of Bel Air Lane on the landowner's property. The parcel where our poles will have an easement. So the main parcel is owned by the mother, parcel where our utility easement is owned by the son. It should be totally out of view, not disturbing any neighbors, we think. And, we can include in the decommissioning plan that if it doesn't already exist, that we would remove these poles.
Oh, that's a really good suggestion.
Andy, would this be something that we could ask the applicant to get us information from National Grid about the need for 6 poles?
Well, it's pretty much right in their manual, John. When I go to do a hookup, I take a look at their manual and I have to go by their manual, whether it's height of
So you've
meter or
already got that
anything,
information.
So that's their manual. That's how you got to build it.
That information provided to the engineer, I'm sure he can, Wayne can verify that, but looking at their manual, I mean, that's cited right from their manual.
Yeah, and that's information coming directly from the National Grid contact. We had follow-up email conversation and call with him since the last zoning board meeting. This is what he pointed us to, and this is the procedure he'd like to follow for this site.
What are the heights of the utility poles?
I'm not sure.
Okay. And then I see, looking at the application, could you kindly point to, reference a figure that we could be looking at where the utility poles are positioned on the?
Tab G is where the application,
I'm sorry, did you say 10G?
tab G.
Tab G.
All right, and so I just want to, this is where the plans are. C-105, if I'm gonna see if my memory is working correctly today. I thought they were in C-105.
Could be.
Give me 1 second. I'm sorry, C-107, they are shown, if you see the poles, you can see them right in the middle of the page, right at the top. May I approach?
Yeah, of course, please.
Those right there, each one of those little circles is a pole.
Okay.
Will it list the height in the notes?
Can't read
Can
it.
you read the notes?
It's too little.
I've got to get some cheaters.
My goodness.
You know, a magnifying glass.
My guess is 20 feet high, right? But
We'll write that down with appending the
Pencil.
confirmation, sure. Yeah,
smudge out.
great.
Take a picture of it and blow it up if you can.
I don't see, I'm looking at it, I don't see it, so we can confirm that for you.
There are some other pages, but I don't see anything on the utility poles. There's silk fence and fencing and transformer
20
pad.
feet
See
high.
what you're looking at.
If you
That's
think
pretty
two,
high.
if you think 2 basketball hoops,
Yeah.
that's pretty darn high. It's
Good.
looking less than that.
Yeah. 18 sometimes.
It's like the light bulb hands.
Yeah, I did.
And Carson's right there. Tony.
Message all week.
And then, if you could just kind of walk us through where you're looking for the relief for the setback lines too, and you could kindly point to a tab for that, please.
That would be in the same plan.
Okay,
And again, it's just basically the project itself is going to cross the boundary lines
sure.
of the tax parcels, and therefore can't, just by nature of the fact that the poles, that the project crosses tax boundary lines, it can't meet the setback from boundary lines with the parcel. So it's basically I don't want to say the entire project, but certainly the project it's zero, technically zero from the setback from the property line when it's supposed to be 100. But again, we looked at we evaluated this previously, both at the planning board and the town board, and they recognized the value of what I will say, the clustering of the solar panels on this portion of the project site, as opposed to if we were to comply with the setback, the 100-foot, you could technically do it, but you're going to end up having solar panels on areas of the project will be more visible to neighbors, et cetera. And this allows it to be consolidated onto, in one project area. Again, the parcels are owned by different people, but again, allows us to consolidate the panels into that consistent project.
Right.
It's more of a function of the ownership of the project site as opposed to any adverse impact.
So to that end, it looks like perhaps C102, maybe C103 would best show that. Because what you're looking at in these two figures is
That's
the
correct.
location of the panels, and then the lot lines are still there.
And the lot lines are right, as you can see, goes right through the middle of
Right.
the panel. So, and it's a function of that internal lot line as opposed to, usually these setbacks when they're put in from non-participating lot lines isn't contemplated here like that. So that's a technical violation, or practically since it's a participating landlord, the intent of the setback is limited, is complied with, but not the technicality of it.
Right, and if I could add, as Mr. Lusk said, it can be viewed as concentrating the project more toward the center of the project site. It does cross an internal lot line, and because of that, there will not be panel setbacks from the internal lot line. But correct me if I'm wrong, there's no violation in terms of exterior lot lines. So it is in the nature of just the lot line location for the project site.
Correct. And again, we have the different ownership there, so we technically can't merge them because there's different ownership between the lots. Where I might be able to check the height is on the EAF. I just did text, I don't know if it's his cell
That's
phone.
okay. Yeah, we can get it the next time. That's fine. So just, I don't know, when we met back in February 28th, did we have the seeker determination from the planning board? It's-
We did not, so the seeker neg deck was distributed to all the involved agencies and the applicant on March 2.
Okay,
So a copy of the neg deck's been provided to the zoning board,
okay.
as well as the town board resolution approving the zone change in connection with the project. And those have been provided to the zoning board and to the planning board.
So if there are no other questions by members this time for discussion, I guess then we'll address the date for the joint public hearing. So I believe that they meet twice in April, just going to be sensitive to some of either of the dates, to the attendance.
Right, so the planning board did review and discuss that, and because of the calendar, with March being a longer month, there is adequate time for the required 10-day public notice. And the planning board was intent on having the public hearing at its first meeting in April, that's Thursday, April 7th. If agreeable to the zoning board, one option would be then to consider scheduling a special meeting for Thursday, April 7th, 7 PM, for the purpose of participating in a joint public hearing with the planning board on the CVE application.
Is that okay, John?
Sure.
Yeah,
7 o'clock?
That's 7 o'clock.
7 o'clock.
7 o'clock, correct, that's when they're,
So
Board start.
that would be good, so the zoning board
Yeah.
would meet for that.
and what you've done procedurally in the past is the planning board opens its meeting, the zoning board opens its meeting, the public hearing is opened, there'll be a presentation by the applicant, receive public comment. In the event the public hearing is closed, then the zoning board simply closes its special meeting, and then you're in line for deliberation at your next regular April meeting.
So April 7th is the joint public hearing then,
Right,
and that's at 7 o'clock, right?
Yes.
Just wanted to make sure with the 6 versus
yeah,
the 7.
right.
All right, perfect. So we'll see you on April 7th, God willing.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you, have a good night. Okay, next, we have a new business, Thomas Wagner at 66 Wyrick Road.
At this point, I'd like to recuse myself, but Tom is a neighbor and we have financial interest, so I,
Okay, John, we'll miss you, see you at the conclusion of this.
okay. Good to see you, Tom.
Right, see you.
Um, So 66 Weinrich Road is in zoning district A40.
Okay,
There's a 52-acre parcel,
yes.
and you're looking for the ability to build a structure on that. It would be an accessory structure.
Yes.
You have a primary structure already there. And if you just want to give us a little brief overview of the project.
Okay, certainly. In short, I'd like to build a larger workshop for development of equipment, repair of equipment. And we have that on the basement level. I'd also like a mechanical accessory room there. I have some solar power already. I'd like to add more, and I would, in that accessory room, add some battery storage. On the first floor, I would like to have a large area where I could have meetings and family gatherings. There would also be a small kitchen and a bedroom. On the next floor, which would only be partially over the building, I would have an office space that could be private. I have children. When they visit, they are often doing business and need a place to be I guess, quiet. Just- So that's roughly what I hope to accomplish from the project.
Okay. It will note that the proposed structure meets all setbacks, or where you have it on the lot.
Yeah, it's basically centered, the smallest distance from a boundary is 547 feet, and I did that by, just Google measurements, so I think it's accurate within 10 feet, but the largest setback is about 1,100 feet. And that, there's a picture of that in the application, the Google map and the setback dimensions,
Didn't come out real well.
if that's helpful.
So the variance that you're seeking is then the size of the proposed structure.
Yes, that's what I understand is the variance in itself, yes.
And proposed, I believe it's 3,452 square feet. Is that the number?
Yeah, I think it's, I should know those things, but it's about that.
Okay, yeah,
Mention that.
sure.
I got a figure on that, so
13,
I
12,
should
and then the,
reference it so I don't say that incorrectly. Where is that?
I'm getting this off the denial letter from the
Ah.
building instructor.
Yeah, then that is correct. 'Cause I collaborated with Chuck on those
Sure.
dimensions.
I put the plans up there that were submitted as well, just to give the board an idea of what it would look like.
And these are available at your office.
Yes.
So if there are no other questions at this time,
I do have
I'm
one just
sorry.
for the
We have
record.
some questions.
oh, I'm sorry.
Just a
ahead.
quick one for,
Yeah.
thank you. Was there a bedroom and a kitchen
Yes,
being proposed?
yes.
Yes,
So
Special use permit.
does it will require,
Yes, he has put in the documentation for a special use permit and will be in front of the planning board. It's part of their new business for the April 7th meeting.
got it.
What date is that at their meeting? They'll be in front of,
April 7th.
April
It'll be the
7th.
same one that we're having the joint meeting with.
Okay.
So you guys will be able to go on out as part of the crowd and listen to the special use permit.
So is there a business right now? You're running a business there now?
I have an LLC and I do engineering work on a consulting basis.
But does he need anything to do with that? Like, is it a home business or what? What is it?
It's, it is allowed as a home occupation, yes.
Okay. So it's allowed?
Yes,
Okay, all right.
yes.
That's all, okay. I didn't have any other questions. So in your letter, you said that the structure can't be more than, not more floor area than the principal building on the lot.
Or 1,500 square
15,
feet.
It's either or,
Right.
but this is both, isn't it? I mean, what's
The
this?
existing structure is 4,200 square
Oh,
feet,
okay.
the principal structure. So
Okay.
this will be, a accessory to the principal structure, i.e. smaller than. That was the question I came up with.
Okay.
It's supposed to be the accessory, it couldn't be bigger, and it's not.
Okay. I don't have any other questions.
thank you. So the application appears complete for the purpose of holding a public hearing, which we'll do at our next meeting in April. That'll be April 18th.
April 18th, okay.
And it will be the second one. Harbor Freight will be starting at 6. So we can say
Okay.
6.
Well, what you could do is have this 6 o'clock public hearing and simply put Harbor Freight second on the
Okay.
agenda because that's regular business. You felt the public hearing.
Okay, sure. All right, so 6 o'clock
6 o'clock
on the
and
18th,
April 18th.
right?
Okay. And there's a second meeting, April 7th, is that correct?
No, that's at the planning board.
Okay.
Yeah, you're going to be in front of 2 boards, Tom.
Okay, so I should attend April 7th as well.
That will be as new business. You certainly have your prerogative to attend. It will be at the very end of the meeting,
Okay.
and you could certainly attend if you want, if you would
If-
like.
If I'm not needed, I'll let the process.
Right, what the
No.
planning board generally does is they review almost in a workshop type fashion, so they understand what the application is. When Chuck brings in the new business, then they'll formally put it on their next agenda and request the applicant
Right.
be
So-
available then. And
Okay,
the reason for that is the planning board does meet 2 times a month.
okay,
And they like to understand the application before it's formally put on an agenda.
okay, so April 7th, I do not.
April
need-
7th, you can be here. It would work out as a sketch plan conference. If they have any questions for you, they could certainly ask you because you'll be here.
Okay,
But you will have to attend the 21st because it will
Okay.
be on the agenda, the 21st.
I'm happy to do whatever is necessary. And that meeting on the 7th and the 21st is at 7 PM, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay,
Planning board meets at 7.
very good.
Your public hearing on the 18th, that will, or for the zoning board, will be at 6.
6 PM, okay, very good.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thanks,
You
you
too.
too. Should we ask to visit the site?
Yeah.
Mr. Wagner, would it be okay if the zoning board members would come and visit the site? Okay, thank you very much.
You're free to come any time if you'd like me to be there. I just let you know, and I can, sometimes I am traveling, so maybe absent.
Okay, all right, fine. There's a number on the application. We can try
Yes.
reaching you on with
Yeah,
that number.
absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
I'd be happy to show the site.
Okay, thank you. Heard that, John?
I think he left, took his coat.
Oh, okay.
That's okay. But he raised this with me earlier, I said, we'll push it at the end of the meeting. That way, when you leave the room, that'll be the end of the meeting. I think he took his coat and he left. That's fine.
Okay, fine. That's right. All right, so if there's no other public, probably new items of business.
No, that's all we had was, it was the one for 68 Wyrick.
Okay, yeah. All right, I make a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting. Remember a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
So it almost seemed like Ann was in our